12 seconds to go in the game. Niners lead by 4. He'll fire to the right side.
Let's just not get blown out this time, okay? Okay, so let's get into this Vikings-Eagles rematch game preview. The tale of two very similar teams, both in the NFC Championship game last year, both being very unimpressive at the beginning of this year. So let's get into it right away. Let's look at the injuries, and even though we have a little bit of a list here, still a lot healthier than the first game in the championship game of last year. So just going through this list, we have a couple Eagles on it, and that is their starting defensive end, Derek Bennett. So this sounds fantastic right on paper, right? It's one last pass rusher to worry about. Everybody knows the Eagles have such a fantastic defensive line. So now Derek Bennett is hurt, so that means the Vikings will have all day to pass, right? No! we lose their starting defensive end just when he gets replaced with former best pass rusher on the Legion of Boom, Michael Bennett. So even though their starter's out, their depth is so good. Please help us. Their longtime backup running back and punt return Darren Sproles is also out, so one less body to worry about in the run and pass game on offense, and a little bit of a more subpar returner. So that's pretty good news for the Vikings as well. And two are questionable. Another running back for the Eagles, Corey Clement. So maybe look for a lot more Jay Ajayi in this game. And Haloti Ngata. Yes, looking at the injury report, you're like, are you sure? The Eagles have the Ravens Hall of Fame interior lineman Haloti Ngata as well? Yeah, they have them. They have everybody. If you're going to be a Hall of Fame defensive player, you're probably on the Eagles defensive line. And they also have a few other people listed on injured, but they should all be able to play. Going to the Vikings, a little bit bigger. Of course, Everson Griffin, and now moving to Trey Waynes is also out with a concussion. Tayshawn Bowers out with an ankle. This one's pretty big because we already have Everson Griffin. Stephen Weatherly's been playing defensive end. Of course, Danielle Hunter is still there. But now there's no real depth. We have rookie Ade Aduna who could step in and play. One option I would like, use this 3 safety package we were so hyped about in preseason. Get George Ilaka, maybe a little Jaron Curse. I don't care. Jaron's been playing fine. But you know, why sign Ilaka if you don't play him? Put Barr at defensive end, where he played in college as like a 3-4 linebacker. I think that would help. Treat him like the Bears play Khalil Mack. Maybe have to shift into a little more of a 3-4 almost style defense. But you could have the other 3 down linemen play basically how they know in a 4-3, and just let Anthony Barr go off the edge at the quarterback, and that'll work very well on 3rd and longs. He's probably our second best pass rusher, at least talent-wise, so hopefully he brings it, and that would help the Vikings out quite a bit. Moving down, of course, Marcus Sherrills is still hurt, so a lot more of our young returners in the game, Holton Hill, and Mike Hughes. So more rookies returning kicks and punts. Hopefully don't do anything too stupid. And that is out. That is the rest of their players that are out. Going to the questionable is Dalvin Cook. So as I'll get to in a moment, the Eagles, with their stout defensive line, are very, very good at stopping the run. So even if Dalvin plays, even if he was 100%, I would not expect him to be much of a factor at all. I will miss his blocking. I will miss his catching out of the backfield. That is always really nice. I miss just the threat of having him back there to help play actions. But I am overall okay if he doesn't play in this game. But hey, if he comes in and he's a factor, fantastic. Prove how good you were last year, and prove that your knee's not an issue, even though, of course, it's the offensive line I'm just playing. And then we have, again, a few more players here, but they should all be active and be able to play just fine. So, really, not too bad compared to last year where the Vikings were down their number 1 quarterback, their number 1 running back. The Eagles were down their quarterback. Thank God their starting quarterback is healthy this week, so we don't got to face the god Nick Foles. So let's look, and now that we're a little bit more in the season, we can kind of look where both teams are at and look at their team stats to see what they're doing well so far. So let's look and see how underperforming these teams are. For the Eagles on offense is pretty surprising. So a lot of their aggression this far in this season for the Eagles is in their offense. They have the 27th ranked offense as far as scoring points at 20.5 points a game. They do move the ball a little bit. 363 yards a game is 20th, which is still below average. 17th as far as passing the ball, which what do you think they might be sucking because of Nick Foles and Carson Wentz that's getting back in the groove of things. It's not really the case. They've been passing the ball all right, just haven't been able to finish drives, and they still have a solid running game. 11th ranked run offense. That might hurt a little bit without Darren Sproles and Corey Clement, but still averaging over 115 yards a game. It's gonna be pretty tough. It's still a pretty well balanced team, even on offense. Being a little slow, they haven't been able to finish as many drives as they would like. But stopping them on offense will be a challenge. The Vikings, in the championship game, that awful defense has been basically just what we've been seeing this season. Lots of big plays, again and again and again. We, for some reason, forgot how to stop the run. We missed some tackles and miscommunication, and this is why I think this has the opportunity to be the Vikings' turning point. I believe this is probably the film that Mike Zimmer and crew have been examining and examining and examining. We even brought in one of their coaches to help out the process of how do we fix this so it doesn't happen again. And maybe what we saw throughout the first 4 games of the year, that was the result of overthinking it. Now let's get back to what we're good at. Let's simplify things a little bit, use our heads, and play football. So this has the opportunity to fix all those mistakes and maybe get our defense to the elite level where it's supposed to be. But on the flip side, if we get 38-7 part 2, I'm not saying that will mean the Vikings will miss the playoffs, because I think regardless, our division is tough enough where I think a 9-win team might be able to win the division, or at least be in the conversation, because of course the tie, so 9 wins, basically 10. 10 is usually the standard to get into the playoffs. So 9-5-1 might slip in, but I don't think we'll win a playoff game. But if we win this game, all of a sudden, I think we're back to being Super Bowl contenders. So this is why I think this is such a crucial game to set the tone through the remainder of the year. So let's get back to the preview and let's examine how the Vikings will have to stop this team, because they have what they're good at is what the Vikings are still struggling at. Their leading receiver is probably one of the best tight ends in the game, Zach Ertz, and he destroyed the Vikings in the championship game. The Vikings have sucked at covering tight ends all year, so this might be a bit of a nightmare. Zach Ertz has been averaging about 80 yards a game. He doesn't have a touchdown yet on the year, which is pretty surprising. And they also have a rookie tight end, a guy that I liked a lot coming into the draft, Gallus Goedert, they do a lot of 2 tight end sets, and they can really confuse other defenses by coming out in heavy run favored sets, 2-2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, and throw out of them, get the matchups they want, kind of like the Eagles did last week. So Zach Ertz, priority number 1. Again, another fantastic reason to get 3 safeties on the field. That should be the best formation as far as I'm concerned, which at least on paper, that would stop tight ends. I mean, Harrison Smith struggles in man-to-man coverage. Anderson Deo struggles in man-to-man coverage. George Alaka does as well, but now we can do a little more zone and kind of maybe double team, whatever it can take, because we know Anthony Barr, that's not a matchup he's going to win. Eric Kendricks is a little bit better in coverage, but he's definitely not going to be up to the task as well. So we will need those little bit speedier, big body guys in the middle of the field to take away those easy throwing lanes, because a lot of those plays last year were just far too easy. But then if we worry about that a little bit too much, Nelson Aguilar is the number 2 receiver, and he's one of the better deep threats in the league. His speed, a lot like we kind of hoped Mike Wallace would have been for us, who, by the way, he's on their team as well. But then moving down the list of the receivers, the other guy that torched the Vikings a lot was Alshon Jeffrey. Now you'd expect the Vikings and Xavier Rhodes, who has a very good track record on covering those big-bodied, not super speedy, but big-bodied, can make the plays on those contested balls. That's Xavier Rhodes is very good at covering Calvin Johnson in those scenarios when he was a very young player in the league and doing well against Megatron. So you'd expect Alshon to be an easy matchup for Xavier, but he struggled in the championship game, and he covered when Alshon was with the Bears, getting passed by Jay Cutler. So, a scary one. He's been very underperforming this year, recovering from an injury. Only has 8 catches for 105 yards on the year. But, hey, if you're the Eagles, you're like, hey, this is a kind of a turning point for us, too. We're only at 2-2. If we have a big game against this pretty god-awful looking Vikings defense, we're on track to try to get the media to think we can repeat as well. So, a lot of talent there. Running the football, Jay Ajayi is of course the leader. He has 37 carries for 155 yards on the year, which sounds like a ton for the Vikings fans this year, because holy cow, our running game is god awful. And 3 touchdowns on the year. So a solid running back, but they do spread the ball a lot, as Corey Clement and Smallwood, their other running back, both have over 20 carries as well. So they will get fresh legs in there, which I wish the Vikings would do without Dalvin. So even with Dalvin, when he's still a little bit banged up, they should have 3 or 4 guys getting a little bit more carries. So luckily enough, the Vikings on the defensive side of the ball are 21st ranked defense, giving up 27 points a game. So the Eagles will try to get to where what they saw what the Bills did against us, they saw what the Rams did, both very pathetic performances from the defense. So they're hoping that they can get a lot of their yards turned into points, and they want to do it as well as anybody. So let's look at how the Vikings can combat that and maybe battle back on offense, because the Vikings offense is the 22nd ranked offense, which sounds good, but 12th ranked in total yards, 390. 5th ranked with 327 pass yards. You'd think we pass the ball a ton, we'd have a little bit better. And then a god-awful, and this is the hysterical, it's a stat of the week. We have 63 yards on the ground. Now this is funny, because the Eagles, fantastic run defense, they're giving up 63.8 yards on the ground a game. That is first in the league. Our running game against average defensive lines perform worse than the average running back against the Eagles this year. Oh my goodness. If you're looking on paper, the Vikings shouldn't run for more than 20 yards this game. It should just be another Kirk Cousins, throw the ball 70 times, let's go. But just because that's what it says on paper, the Vikings will probably break 60-yard runs and get 4 rushing touchdowns in the game. So let's see how that works out. But just on those stats alone, I'm not expecting a big running game at all. Like I said, with Dalvin being out, I'm not too worried about that. I want Latavius Murray in the game a lot, basically as a pass blocker. Make Plow forward ahead. We need to get those runs at least to get play action and get a little Mike Boone, a little more Rock Thomas, and hopefully we can do a little bit of the run game. Can we get 70 total team rushing yards, please? At least a little something. So the Vikings on offense going against the Eagles on defense. The Eagles defensively, I covered how good they are against the run, but against the pass, they're just right around average, 271 yards a game. That's 18th, right below average. They give up 335.2 yards, which is 10th, and 20.2 points a game, which is 9th. So such a good defense, barely even in the top 10. So the Vikings they have a really good defensive line. Everything else is kind of good, not great. Their linebackers, their corners, they lost their slot corner that really threw the pendulum their way in the championship game on that pick 6. So that should help out, especially our slot receiver, Adam Thielen. So I think Thielen will have a very, very, very good game this week. Again, I mean, what game in this year hasn't been a big game for Thielen? And Diggs will be shadowed again. Their corners, Darby and Mills, are okay, not great. Darby's a little bit better. Mills has been very suspect against the deep ball. So if we can get Diggs matched up on him, hit him with the double move, please, for the love of God, our offensive line protect for a few seconds. I think Cousins will have good success to Diggs. Again, what else is new? Diggs and Thielen should have a big day. Rudolph and down the middle. Hopefully he'll have success as well, and we should need a lot of the help from our other weapons as well. Robinson, 2 touchdowns against the Rams. This is a good chance for him to cement himself as the Vikings' number 3 receiver. Laquan Treadwell has a chance to maybe get some more love his way to be the Vikings' number 3 receiver. But it should be a grind. Both teams match up well against each other, and I hope this is like what my score prediction was for the championship game, because both teams are still very, very similar. The core of both teams are so much still intact. I'm still going to expect a low-scoring game, but when I expected a low-scoring game, for that it didn't happen. 38-7, 38-7, 38-7. Vikings 24, Eagles 21. Make it happen! Sunday, mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock-ish. We'll see you guys then. And stay tuned for a review where hopefully I'm happy because we beat the Eagles. Please.